Welcome to Fort Colony Homeowners. I'm Ken Spencer, and this is the annual 2023 Fort Colony Homeowners Association Budget Review presentation. Please, as you review through this presentation, jot down any questions and submit them to the link put on this slide. This slide and the next slide provide the agenda for what we're going to talk about during this briefing. Just as a reminder, at the end of the briefing, we will put up a slide that again gives you the link where you can submit your questions to us, and we will answer all those questions to everyone. Before I discuss the budget details, I'd like to recognize the successful completion of the major drainage project. This lasted more than 2 years. This slide depicts the amount of effort and HOA resources that went successfully into doing this major project. Please note that the management agent staff submitted requests to James City County for grant funds and was awarded over $338,000 to help pay for this project. Absent these grants, the financial burden on the homeowners would have been larger. This was a large project that was successfully completed on time within the allocated budget, and we added 35% additional repairs that showed up during our inspections during the project. The HOA board sincerely appreciates the efforts that made this project successful. I'd like to call out and recognize the RPM Drainage Working Group of Jim Baldridge, Bob Dillman, and Clay McEldowney, who ushered this project from start to finish. I'd also like to recognize past chairman Jack Van Linden and Bruce Landerfeld for their efforts bringing this project through. George Spaltoff, the former board president, was the champion of this project and set it up to be very, very successful. The finance committee, originally chaired by Daphne Kinkle and Nancy Mall, created the financial strategy that made the project work. And then lastly, we must recognize Ryan Lee and the MA staff and the two major contractors that did all the work. Thank you. Kudos to all from the board. Now back to the primary purpose for this briefing. First, I'd like to thank the major contributors that put this budget together. Starts with the finance committee, Nancy Mall and her staff that's listed on this. It also involves all of our standing committees, particularly roads and project maintenance, facilities, security, and technology, who provided detailed budgets for their respective department and responsibilities. We also thank Drew Mulhere, Sally Walls, Ryan Lee for their years of expertise helping put this budget together. And finally, I thank my fellow board members who asked the hard questions, provided their points of view, and helped shape this budget for you, the homeowners, to have for this year. As a starting point going into the budget, I'd like to review where we are in 2022 year to date. As you can see on this slide, our operating revenues are fairly good year to date. We have one minor exception, and that is our ads for the Talk of the Colony were significantly lower this year than in previous years. We're looking at why this happened, but this is going to be an impact on our future budgets also. I'd like to say that we thank the security services for their help in bringing in additional revenues for their gate fees, and also the ARC fees were significantly above our budget. And last year, as you remember, we approved the collection of a capital contribution fee on home sales. In the 4 months that we have collected this fee, we've collected $67,990, which will be applied to the capital reserve in the 2023 budget. Bottom line, very favorable on the income through the end of September. On the operating expense side, again, overall, very, very favorable on the operating expense side. There's some areas that have savings. There are some other areas where we are saving right now, but we intend to expend the money by the end of the year. It's a timing issue. But the bottom line is we expect a favorable variance of $75,000 this year that we will roll over to reduce your fees for next year. This shows where we were on our forecast for our capital spending. As you know, we set aside funds every year to do capital project, repair projects, replacement projects, and things. So this year, we had rolled over a significant amount of money, and as you can see, we are going to spend just slightly more money, mainly due to the increased cost of site work in drainage. And what we had to do was borrow from this capital reserve to finish out our pipe project. And we would plan to create more money in the capital reserve over the next 5 years to pay this back and build up the capital reserve again. So that was planned, and it's not something unusual. Other than that, our paving costs were just a little bit higher, and that's just due to the inflation costs. Overall, very good year in our capital spending. Now we get to the hard thing. We're going into the 2023 budget. We got together and made a bunch of assumptions. In this revenue assumptions on this page, you can see the things we've listed, including the $75,000 carryover from the 2022 budget into the 2023 costs. We also have approximately planning for 3,000 homes, with some new homes and lots coming on to pay dues this year. As I mentioned before, because the talk of the colony income was less, ad income was less this year, we are decreasing the amount in the budget for next year. It's going to be a little tighter. Makeup, we also are increasing fees in some other areas. We anticipate we're going to have about 188 resales this next year for disclosure packages, ARC fees, etc. And we also, that will impact what we collect in our capital contribution fee. And we expect about 27 new home plans submitted and 10 townhomes, which will impact the ARC fees. This is a listing of our assumptions on the expense side. We're looking at this year as a cost of delivery of services from the management agent and the staff to the homeowners. So we're focusing that way this year, and we anticipate that that cost of delivery of services is going to increase about 7%. The total cost of labor increases about 4%. Cost of fuel about 10%, health insurance about 10%. That all goes into the total cost of delivery. We also have other commodities and vendor services that are increasing based on vendor quotes. We plan to fully fund the capital investment fund for the policy, and we're going to limit the number of essential operating projects that are accomplished this year so we can keep the budget as low as possible for the homeowners. Okay, this slide now depicts our 2023 budget broken down roughly in the capital reserve side of what we plan to do. As you can see, roads are a significant cost expense for 2023. This was a planned action. We have set aside money in past capital reserve budgets to account for this. So this was not anything that was unknown. We just needed to make this investment to keep our roads in good operating order so that it's nice for everybody to drive on them. Our site and drainage budgets are about the same. Recreation's a little bit increased. Security decreased because we made our major capital investment security last year. We don't have that much this year. And the bottom line, as you can see, we have a significant amount of money we're going to spend in our capital projects next year. It'll be a lot of work around the colony, and we appreciate your efforts of supporting this so our colony remains nice and suitable for our homeowners. From all of these, we then calculate what amount of the assessment budget needs to be set aside in the capital reserve, and that's depicted on this slide. Now we get to the major part of the budget, which is our operations, and then we've summarized it up in one slide for you so you can see the capital reserve, Ford's Colony Drive, and CIF contributions here. Here they are by departments. One note, in the technology area, this has significantly increased because we have an urgent need to replace our accounting system. It has basically become unsupportable by the vendor. We need a new accounting system. We have put about $35,000 into this budget to allow the HOA to screen vendors and select a new accounting system that will serve more of our homeowner needs than just accounting. It will be a more homeowner focused accounting system and have some benefits. And you'll hear about this a lot later. As I mentioned before, we are fully funding our capital investment fund contribution this year so that we'll have money set aside to add new amenities as the homeowners desire, and we deem that it's an appropriate thing to do. Bottom line, all of our budget is up there about a 6.87% total increase in the budget. Now, how are we going to pay for this? Here's how we get to it. We have our current level of assessments, which would provide us over $6 million. We are carrying over $75,000 from our 2022 budget of excess fees. We have our planned facility use fees, security fees, HOA fees, and our capital contribution fee. That brings our revenue up to almost $7 million. That still leaves us about a $483,000 shortfall. The board has decided to balance that budget. We are going to increase our annual assessments by $164 a year, or $41 a quarter, to be at a round amount. That will bring your total assessment up for 2023 to $2,256 a year, or $564 a quarter. That's an increase of 7.8%. The boards and committee management are going to diligently work throughout 2023 to make sure that the homeowners get the most value for their money. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Again, here is the email to send in questions. I will answer all those questions at the November 2nd town hall meeting in the S&T at 6:30. I will also answer every single question individually to whoever sends them in. Thank you very much, and thank you for supporting the Forts Colony Homeowners Association.